was helping Michael Farrell's group upstairs, and he said something about is that in times of economic difficulties, you may begin to plant the seed of social polarization. And my take of the last European election is we saw a rise of nationalism. A lot of far-right parties being elected to Europe. What do you politicians, what do you think? How does that reflect the opinion of the populace?
I believe there is a rise in racism in our society. I believe that a lot of, whether it's openly, a lot of politicians have adopted more right-wing racist views. Some of them aren't as open and wouldn't be as open in a forum like this, but on a one-to-one basis in the pub or whatever, they will agree, we need to address this, that and the other. We've all, as politicians, or the vast majority of us, have taken a pledge to ensure that where we see racism or racist attitudes, that we will address it. And I took it when I first contested in Dublin South Central in 2002, and again in the 2007 election, and I presume others. And that wasn't just a pledge, an empty pledge. I think we need to do a lot more to ensure that racist attitudes are challenged. One of the problems as well is one of the organisations that was to the fore in helping us and helping society challenge those was the NCCRI. Was also starved of funding and disappeared. There is a need for it because it is so bad that I know last year I argued against the council locating an individual family in an area because I knew that within a number of weeks they will be applying for a transfer, and the only reason for that is based on their colour, that there was no protections for them, and within 3 months the council had to move them because the very area they put them in was an area which was had a number of racist attacks in it, and the kind of society as a whole is responsible for that. If you are going to or if you notice racist attack, you need to put in place the protections for people in that area, and that means Garda resources, that means council resources and everything else. And that was why we knew at the time that the Gardaí and the corporation or the city council weren't willing to take those actions, so you were putting a family in danger. Thankfully the family were moved and housed and are happy where they are since. But that's how our society is going, that families' lives are being put at risk.
But that is also, Angus, it's very complicated, that is also rewarding the racist community in their terms.
It was, but I, as a politician, was not going to stand over and I talked to the family, and this is before they were housed. They were warned. And without the resources, without society being willing to divert resources to protect communities, ethnic communities, minority communities, then you will have that. And we aren't as yet willing to put those protections in place, or I haven't seen it as yet. I would love to be able to
the agenda is being set in that instance. I'm not saying it's simple, and I'm sure you were on the ground and therefore knew the complexity of the setting, but that is also, the route you took also has its dangers.
Oh no, in other communities, Fatima Manchester was mentioned earlier, it is wonderful what is happening there because the resources and that are dedicated to it.
I appreciate that, okay. Michael Durst.
Yeah, there's certainly a rise in nationalism, and the ugliest version of nationalism with the BNP. I do think that the broadcasting industry have a role to expose the fascists that these people are, and I think Nick Griffin's...
You're saying now nationalism, fascism and racism all in the one word. Nationalism is quite a respectable movement.
Well, it's
we wouldn't be here if we didn't express it in the 21st century.
I said the ugly nationalism. The ugly nationalism.
Yeah.
And I do think that Donald touched upon it earlier, and it's something that I've seen in Wexford also with the Oireachtas education programme, and there's a person who runs that for all of the Oireachtas, and she goes all around the country, and she made the point to us, the Oireachtas members from Wexford, just this week, that she sees more of an anti-foreign, anti-person, anti-anybody who's not from Ireland.
Okay, let's stop you there. Can
And
I ask
it's-
the last two speakers from the audience, because they would know better than anybody in the room. What is your own experience? Have you lived in other countries besides Ireland? Have you lived in other European countries besides Ireland?
Is that me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Oh, no.
No, just in Ireland, mainly in Ireland.
Mainly in Ireland.
And how racist or otherwise are we?
Well, the question with racism, as we always look at it from an African perspective, is it has to do with the person. I would be wrong to say there's no racism. Personally, I haven't had any real experiences. I suppose it's the way I probably conduct myself with people. The people who've actually had worse experiences, and it's mostly being isolated when you've been from a different race and from a real tight spot, well, whether it's going to be in a village or a town or some community, and you're the only person there. And the views which would have come from maybe economic situations or wrong political information in this stage, which not really proportions their interpretation. Like some Irish people believe they suffer and sell in Europe. So it is their place to kind of reward people.
Okay. And your colleague there, what has your experience been in Ireland?
That's fantastic. Yes, it's true, because this opportunity, like this gathering, is never very easy to air your views to your position, to talk to government on something that government doesn't want to hear. In my country, you can't have that forum. And on racism, of course, we just experience people with it's just a disagreement of people all the time. Society has said everywhere. But having said that, my puzzle is why government give people in Sahara seekers a word that integration starts when their process is done. Is that not inequality? Because you don't, like if you don't get these other populations and you go to like civil societies here, you render nobody, and to me that's a bigger part of government mistake of what try to make people to be the in society. At the end of the day, your caucus will be there, and then how would you? We have been a long time ago. How do you put that? Is it not inequality?